Okay, these are going to be the ingredients that you're going to want to get to make homemade clam chowder. So I've pre-cooked some bacon here, and don't burn it, you know, take good care of it. We're going to crumble it up, but we still don't want it to be burnt black. We don't want it to be too hard. Texture is everything. Then we're going to need some celery. So you're not going to need too much. This is obviously what I bought. We're going to cut up some shallots are good. You're going to need some potatoes. Obviously, you're going to need some clams. You're going to need a pot of water. You're going to need flour, butter, half and half. You're going to want to have like some chicken bouillon, basically like a soup stock, because that's what you're going to boil the shallots, the celery, and potatoes in. You're going to boil it in that. We have some New York steaks and some what was this? Some boneless ribeye. And then we've got some extra virgin olive oil. Slap it on both sides. We've got pepper, salt. We've got garlic, thyme, and rosemary. So this is pretty much all you're gonna need. So I'm gonna show you guys the next steps now. So we're gonna try to make the perfect steaks here. So we've got 2 ribeyes, 2 New Yorks, some really nice cuts, and just a little cheap old Weber here. We've got the coals to one side blank. So we're gonna sear on one side and kind of bake on another. So that's gonna be the whole idea. So I pre-seasoned these a couple hours before, a little bit of olive oil on each side, and then we did salt, pepper, garlic, rosemary, and a little bit of thyme. So, and then a little bit of thyme on this. See you in a minute. So the idea here is we don't want to burn the steaks. We want to sear them though. We want to get a nice browning on one side. We're going to flip them over, do the same thing on the other side. We're going to basically want to make the steak look as if we want to eat it, but it's obviously so thick it's not going to be cooked. So then we're going to move it over here, close the lid, and kind of bake it. So then we're going to jump inside to the clam chowder, and man, this is going to be one yummy dinner. See you guys in a second. We got to close this so we don't burn this meat. And gals, that's about 3-4 minutes in on one side, maybe a little bit more, and then we flipped them, and then we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing. We'll see you guys in a minute. We're gonna flip this over to this side and then jump inside of the clam chowder. Yum. We're about to be done with the steaks for a minute. They've got to bake basically, so we've moved them over. They look scrumdiddlyumptious. They're just not done yet. So what we did is we put another fine little light dusting of salt, pepper, and a little bit more ground up oregano with some little slices of butter. And we'll see these in about 20-25 minutes. Little tip to help your water boil a little faster, put a little bit of salt in it. It'll help it come to a boil quicker. So we're gonna go ahead, and what we've done is we've started to bring the water to a boil, and now we're gonna wanna put in our potatoes, shallots, celery with some chicken stock. So we'll see that in a moment here. Now, none of my instructions are really gonna come with any ingredient amounts. It's all gonna be to your taste. So you'll see how I do it. And even then, sometimes I make the world's greatest, and sometimes it's a little bit too strong, this or that. But most of the time, I've got it nailed down to an art. And so we're gonna go ahead and put some, you know what, that's not enough. We need to put a good amount in here. Some chicken broth. We want to give this, we're gonna put in some chicken broth here, some stock. Then we're gonna go ahead and stir that around so it's kind of like a base. It's gonna put some flavor into our potatoes. Little secret here. So we're gonna go ahead and put these potatoes, which we've pre-washed to get all the starch out of them. There you go, thank you, honey. Awesome there. Now we've got shallots and celery here, but this is a little bit excessive amount, so I'm gonna grab a little bit of both. We're gonna put it in to taste. There we go. So we've got a nice little handful of shallots and celery. Boom. I don't want to have too many in there. So what we're going to do here is we're going to boil the shallots, the celery, and the potatoes until the potatoes are just almost perfect. If they're just a little bit underdone, that's okay, but they really need to be pretty much perfect, because we don't want them to turn to mush in the soup, but we also don't want them to be too hard, because they will not pull that much moisture out of the soup. They will maintain almost whatever consistency you pull them out here. So make sure you boil them for long enough to soften them up to your liking. So we'll see you guys in a moment. Next step in the best homemade clam chowder ever is you've got to melt the butter down first, and you don't want to burn it. So you melt it at a low temperature, about 3/4 of a stick to a stick, depending on how much you're making and for how many people. Then you're going to take flour, and you're going to sprinkle it in there lightly. You don't want to have too much flour. It's always okay to add a little bit more afterwards. So we're going to see where we stand right here. Can you turn that down a little bit? So we're going to go ahead and alright, so we're going to add a little more flour. We want this to have almost a doughy, almost a Play-Doh texture. A little more than this here. So we don't want it to be too runny. We also don't want it to be too thick. So that should be about enough here. Then what we're going to do here is we're going to continue to just kind of knead this around and cook it on a low temperature. And we're going to cook this to cook out that flour taste. We're going to cook this dough here, and we're going to do that for about 5-10 minutes. Then once we've cooked this dough, then we're going to start slowly adding in the half and half. So I'll see you guys in a moment here. All right. All right, the next step now that we've cooked our flour and butter is we're going to start slowly adding half and half. So I'm just going to put a little bit in there. Because basically what I want to do is I don't want the mixture to become too lumpy. So if you add the half and half slowly, you will prevent it from becoming all lumpy. At least that's the idea. That's what we're shooting for here. So we're going to add this here just a little bit at a time, not too much. That way it mixes, and then when we're done here, I'll show you what it looks like. So I'll see you guys in a second. So what we're looking for is this consistency, kind of like a really thicky soup, almost like a whipping or mashed potato consistency. And at this point, it should just be the flour, butter, and half and half. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our can of clams with the juice or the clam juice and dump them in. So we're going to go ahead and put those in. Okay, so I went with 3 for usually this size recipe. You'd go with about 2. I like to have a lot of clams in mine. And then secret recipe of mine, remember that bacon. So we're going to go ahead and sprinkle that bacon in there. That's going to give it a little bit of more of a salty bacon flavor to it too. Gives it that special kick. And then we're going to want to stir this around and move this around as well until it becomes a nice smooth consistency as well. So we'll see you in a second. We're getting there. And this is just stopped boiling, so we want to drain this water. We do not want to let those potatoes sit too long. We want to make sure that they're at the right consistency and that they're not overcooked or undercooked. So we'll see you guys in a moment. Now in this pan, I have just the clams, bacon, clam juice that came with the clams, the flour, the butter, and the half and half. Okay, so remember, we took the butter, we melted it down on a low heat, we put the butter in, we cooked that for about 10 to 20 minutes on a low heat. Then we add in the half and half, and we cook that slowly and at a low heat. Everything stays at a low heat. And then we slowly blend in everything, and we put in the bacon, and we put in the clams, and now we have what is almost clam chowder already. So it's gonna thicken and get a little bit thickener, it's gonna get a little bit thicker. And so what you're gonna wanna do is when you drain your potatoes, sorry, that's bad light. When you drain your potatoes and celery and shallot mix, save a little bit of the water. You're gonna wanna use that as a agent that will thin the soup down if it's too thick. But I'm gonna get this water out. You don't wanna let your potatoes sit in it because they'll go to mush. So we'll see you guys in a moment. We're almost done. And voila, that's how you make the perfect homemade clam chowder. So look at that nice thick consistency, but not too thick. It's got some bacon in it, lots of clams, nice chunky potatoes in it, some celery and shallots, flavored with just the right amount of salt and pepper to your liking. And that's how you do it. And then along with some nice yummy steaks. Let's take a gander here and see how this is done. So how does that look? Nice and pink and perfect. Perfect steaks, perfect clam chowder. Bam. Thanks for watching. Sorry this ain't a fishing video, but we'll see you on the lake soon. Oh my goodness, I tried a little piece of this. Oh, it's to die for. Oh my goodness, and we're gonna try some of this clam chowder now. Oh my goodness. Thanks for watching Common Sense Fishing and Common Sense Talks.